Hello everyone, my name is Zaki Layton and I am the creative director, writer, and programmer of Fractured Universe. And welcome to the commentary mode version of a playthrough of Fractured Universe. So throughout this, you're going to be seeing me along with some of my teammates, voice actors, and artists talk about things related to the game and let you get to know them and the process behind a lot of what we do here. So this is going to be including going through a full playthrough of the story, completing the dungeon that follows that, along with doing some pulls in the gacha system. And then as we get to different things, I'm going to be bringing on other people. But mostly you're going to be having to listen to my voice, so sorry about that. First, about Fractured Universe as a concept. Fractured Universe was a game that came about in about almost actually a year ago as of the recording of this, where I wanted to create a gacha game that didn't have very predatory monetization systems and gacha systems, and I wanted to make something completely for free. And as I'll talk about more throughout this, there's just been a lot of support, and I got a lot of support from a lot of different people being involved with this project, and the scope of it kind of just kept getting bigger to the point that now I have like a super long roadmap ahead of that, but that's something I'll talk about later. So basically I just wanted to create this really cool RPG, turn-based, party-based, have, you know, the gacha mechanics in there, which we'll talk about, have like a really cool team-based system and combat mechanics, and I wanted something out there that I made that truly represented my creative vision, and that if it just, you know, even if it just made a few people happy or that people enjoyed it, that would be enough for me. And I wanted to make that and just put it out there in the world. Make one person's life better just because I made something that they enjoyed, and that's all that I wanted. And so, yeah, I feel like throughout some experiences that we've had that I've talked about, that I've been able to do that. I hope that you have enjoyed it as well. So, and now I'd like to introduce you to our three core people outside of me. In this order, we're having Cetro, our composer, Gigi, our character designer, and Anna, who is one of our voice actors and also has helped consult on a lot of decisions here.
So, my name is Cetro. I am the partial music producer for V Universe and our game Fractured Universe. I made the intro sequence and a couple of the demo songs. Hopefully I'm going to be working on more here soon. I am an intermediary producer of digital music and a former streamer. I'm looking forward to continually working on this project as we go along.
Hi, my name is Nyx. I am a VTuber, artist, and own my own business. I am working with the V Universe team as the lead pixel art character designer, and I also put a lot of input into our character designs up and coming. I've done a number of characters so far, including Nima, Professor, Seraphine, Bela, and Varel. As of when this is recorded, I am currently working on Zaya also.
Hi there, I'm Anatrocious, your local Fallen Angel VTuber, causing chaos across the streamer space. I am a singer, voice actor, challenge doer, bad game player, and now certified yapper. And in the case of the Fractured Universe, I am the voice of Varel, and I also happen to consult on some creative decisions.
When it came down to the MC, he was a character that was originally used for my own VTuber design. Back when I was, you know, wanting to be more of a streamer, and I was doing that, this was sort of what I wanted to be that. And actually, at a certain point, I kind of decided to repurpose him into the main character of this game. And I think that's really cool. Originally, the Gold Monster created the design that you see, and she did a fantastic time. She's an amazing artist. that wonders for this design, and I'm in love with him so much, and a lot of people really like him. Recently, though, we wanted to take on a little bit of a more mature design when it came to the game, and to match its tone a bit more. And so we reached out to the same artist that did another character that we'll talk about later on, Simona Simmons Art, to do a more mature design. And I'll show it on the screen now, since it's not in the game as of currently. But a lot of people really like this design, and I'm happy that people have come to appreciate this one and really like the redesign that we did. I'm really in love with it. These two artists, having Ghoulie create the initial design and then Simona to really take it in to new heights, has really been a fantastic combination. Well, voicing him has been an interesting experience because I don't consider myself a voice actor, and I don't think I ever will. I'm sort of voice acting him just because he's the MC and because I kind of know what direction I want to go with him. Sort of this, like a shyer but smart, intelligent puzzle solver rather than a fighter. And I think that's a really neat direction, and there's some really interesting stuff that I'll talk about more later on when it comes to Varel that we're going to be doing with him as a character, and with this redesign and the things that we're going to do with his deeper backstory and how we want to kind of put everything together. I really hope that everyone is able to fall in love with him and enjoy going on this ride, being able to play as this very hopefully unique character, because I know that he's doing the whole I can't remember anything play, and I know that a lot of people aren't that fond of those types of stories, and that it can be very cliche. And so I really want to I know that we have done something very unique and fun with it, and I hope that you all are willing to ride that out with us and find out what we have in store for you. Anyways, I've yapped enough. Time to let some other people yap. Next, we're going to have Gigi, our character designer, talk about how they got into the project and some of the sprite work that they've done for it, and then Renray, who is the artist of Nima. Alright, take it away.
So, when I first got into VTubing, a person who I was in a relationship with at the time introduced me to one of our creators on the team, Elysian Phantom, and her and I became pretty good friends. She helped me a lot when I was first starting out. Later on, she sent out a notification about looking for voice actors. I had been already trying to find some voice acting gigs. I had done some minor voice acting tryouts and stuff before. I've done acting, a few other things, and this was something that I was really looking to try and get into. So of course this sounded great. So I joined the server off of her invite, threw an audition, talked a little bit about myself, made sure I did what I could to stand out. When I got into the server originally, I was super quiet. I didn't really talk, I didn't know so many people, and on a whim, I decided to join the director in one of his public calls. He was just kind of in there on his own. We started talking. After, I want to say a few days, maybe a week, of us just casually talking in and out, I was talking about my art stuff, my audio editing certification, a whole bunch of things, and I was really seeing that there were some stuff missing out on the team. And shortly afterward, I was offered to be on the team to help out with the character designs. So Nima was the first one that I had worked on when I first joined in the team. This was almost kind of like a trial run. Going through the character was a struggle. I had to do a lot of elements that I hadn't worked with before. particularly with the hair. I do really well with style matching, and I have for quite a while, but I had to approach a newer challenge, which was creating a anime hairstyle with particularly two very expressive ponytails into her silhouette while being at a much lower scale. Um, there were several other struggles that I will definitely get into in a minute. But having to blend a variety of different programs at the time had made things really interesting. This was at the start of it before I even had the current program that I use. So I was blending a mix of GIMP, which is practically a free version of Photoshop made by other artists for artists, and a manual painting program called Paint Tool Sci, particularly version 1. And only one of these was even designed for pixel art, to be frank. So I had to use what I had at the time, which was how I was able to create the iconic pigtails that she has. And I was really happy with being able to blend the two elements, even though this was the first time I had done anything this extremely new, adding on to it. Outfits and other things are a mix of current assets, recoloring, and even a lot of the time completely fresh ones that I make myself. But I have entire sprite sheets I go through. Something that I had not previously done before this and had been clear about was I hadn't done a lot of the battler sprites. I had done maybe one or two, and those ones were a mix of different scales. So having this one be the slightly bigger scale and consistent was, again, another round of challenges. But I particularly ran into the most amount of issues on trying to translate her outfit. She has a quite revealing dress, and on top of this, she has a different sized chest. So I wanted to make sure to continue on being accurate to the character. So I actually had to create my own base in order for me to then be able to create the outfits on, which did lead to a number of streams that were entirely devoted to covering up the original body and making a naked base. Definitely an interesting period on my channel. Not the first time something's happened like that, but it was new. When I eventually did get to working on the outfit, I would run into issues with readability. Because the dress is quite revealing and has a lot of intricate details, I wanted to be able to translate as much of the original design onto pixel art as possible. So I had messed around with where the holes in the corset would be quite a number of times. I found myself going back every once in a while and editing previous frames just to make sure that it was consistent. Along with that, I actually had to ask a number of questions related to how the garments would be layered in order to make sure that I had everything read correctly. The original reference I had didn't fully cover certain details, which was eventually what led to the decision that anything that wasn't shown on original reference sheets, I had some creative freedom on. And that led to later on decisions on other characters I had to make. But yeah, no, she was a challenge. At the time, I would have said one of the hardest designs I've had to do in quite a while. That opinion has changed. There are definitely other designs that have been much more painful to do.
I'm Renry, I am your Eldritch shapeshifting VTuber, and I am an artist and character designer of Nima. Well, definitely one of my favorite things about Nima's design is I love her hair, how it came out. I love the coloring and just the style and the flowiness of it. Like the mix of the shorter bangs with the longer bangs, well, longer hair as well. I love that. I love the little accents that are on her. I think the mix of the purples and whites and silvers are just a beautiful combination altogether. I also love her body type is like soft. It's always one of my favorite things to do to render soft bodies.
Anima was the first character, one of the first characters that we commissioned and created for a Fractured Universe, and she's definitely one of the ones I'm the most proud of and most attached to. Just having this, a softer voiced character be sort of this guide, this comfort in this new strange world that the professor has found himself in. It's a really nice first character to kind of interact with in that way, and we've got some interesting reactions. The reason why she sort of ended up with the body type that she did was pretty simple. Like, we just kind of wanted to have a lot of different body types throughout the game. I think we've been able to accomplish that, and so having a character with her body type in represented, within the game, I think was pretty important. And Renray did a fantastic job in being able to do that and bring her to life, and so it's real nice. And Guilty, who voices her, also did a fantastic job of bringing her to life as well, and bringing that soothing, comforting voice to her. So especially when later on, hopefully we get to have her play off of Rel a bit more, it's going to be very interesting to kind of see the contrast of these two characters sort of bouncing off of each other in that way, and how they interact so differently and play very different roles within the professor's life. Next up, we're going to go ahead and talk more about the MC from some of our other members' perspectives, and then also get some information about how the UI was created and how we sort of ended up on that round of things. So yeah, Gigi and Anna are going to go ahead and give us some more information on that. So yeah, take it away.
So, the professor. I ran into a completely different group of struggles on this one. The first thing that I had noticed was going to be difficult was the professor has a completely monochromatic palette. Just to define this, monochromatic palettes are those that are using only one or two colors, typically a singular color that has a range from its original color, in this case purple, and shades of black and gray, or just completely all shades of purple. When you are limited to a small size character and you have to follow up with a completely monochromatic palette, you run into so many problems on readability. I needed to make sure that I was using a variety of different purples because they would cross over each other on several of the animations, just to make sure that you could tell what was going on. The gloves, which I had to do completely by hand, were part of this. The gloves themselves, I was able to eventually figure out. It took me a few tries. But having the inside of the coat and the hair be partially purple and the neck piece and the shirt just led to so many different shades. Typically, when I work with monochrome, I keep to a limited palette, but I had to actually expand upon this palette, which was not easy. I eventually had settled on using a slightly darker shade of lavender along with a very deep royal purple and different mixings of slightly darker and slightly lighter of the two to eventually differentiate the different parts. That had helped a lot once I had gotten that set up. And shortly after finally getting the purples, I had run into probably the biggest challenge I've had to deal with so far, which was the hat alone. And I love how detailed the hat is. Except when it needs to be pixel art, because it was practically impossible to keep so many of the details in the original design. What I had landed on eventually was that the hat would have two of the gears hanging across it instead of the numerous gears it originally has. And I had even hid in the chain a third gear, which isn't easy to see, but it's there, I promise. And when I had transferred over to working on the battle animation, there was an issue with some of the frames where the character would stand up. Now, part of the limitation with these frames and design is that there is a height limit. I can't actually edit the size of the canvas. So I would run into the issue that the hat would be a few pixels too tall. And so for a while I had been thinking about how to completely redo the hat, scrap it, how could I put it at the slightly bigger detail of the battle animation. Eventually what I landed on, which should have felt more obvious at the time, was that when they had fully stood up, I could slightly change the perspective of the hat so the top wouldn't be as tall. It would still have the same height, but it would be slightly turned. And just changing the top 3 pixels orientation, well, pixels of height rather. The top 3 pixels of height's orientation completely fixed the issue, and I was finally able to get this character design done.
I like it because, again, we talked about this privately, but I love the idea of the MC being like, he looks like he could be this like aloof kind of scholarly leader character, except he's a little twink goofball. And so it's like, it's fine until he talks kind of thing. And you're like, oh, you're an adorable little bottom. I see. And I actually think that's the perfect dichotomy. I love it so much. I love this. I'm this aloof, handsome man scoring over these books. Don't look at my mangas, like, don't look. It's so funny. And I think it's such a good, like, it's a good Gap Moe kind of moment of what you expect the character to be, being that scholastic, like scholarly, knows everything, leader, confident leader character. And instead, what you have is this shy boy in a top hat, and I like that. I think it's fantastic. Okay, so this is going to be a silly one because I don't feel like I had that much input in it, but it is one of my favorites, which was getting to talk about the UI and how the UI is going to work. I'm very passionate about UIs, and I remember when you sent me your first one and we started talking about different ways to set up, especially the character selector in battles. So when you have your portraits out and you're able to like move between your characters to pick movements and all of that, getting to go back and forth on those UI kind of decisions is one of my favorite things, because I think video games especially need to have like that clear and concise feel to them when you're looking at a UI element over like a character design. And one of my favorite times, I think, was getting to try and figure out the identity of the game from looking at the UI elements and how you see the enemies and like how all of that information is displayed. I think it was one of my favorite consulting things I got to do, was going back and forth on, well, do we do it this way? How big do we make the character portraits? Do we do it in lines? Do we do it in boxes? And getting to kind of get that visual feel for how the battle system was going to look.
The memory zone is a very intriguing location. It's a place that, you know, as mentioned in the tablet, is meant to be incomplete. An incomplete memory of the place, and so we wanted to be able to show that through the location, having all these, you know, missing tiles and cutoffs and this void space behind it, and this very, very like missing place. We didn't want to make it though seem like it was old in that kind of way. Like obviously this is a very ancient place, but we didn't want to add like a bunch of like dirt, grime, and like rust and like actual rubble into this area. And this is meant to be mostly a one-to-one capture of the way that it was before, when it was, you know, around and functioning and working properly. But just literally having some pieces completely missing from this, you know, almost photograph that has been taken and put here of this area. And so that's why you have things like these completely missing cutoffs instead of having it be like partial breaking aways or stuff like that. It's just completely gone. Almost like they no-clipped out, I guess, is the best way that I can put it. But I'm very happy with the way that this sort of came out, especially because the missing areas part actually helped us a lot when it came to game design, as we could strategically place some of these missing tiles in a way that would force the player to go through very specific corridor locations in order to trigger certain events from happening and not allowing the player to maneuver around them, whether an accident or purposeful. So we actually were able to incorporate it into the game design a lot. So yeah, I'm very happy with how this map turned out in this location.
So our first track, Reminiscent Fracture, was the blast, honestly, to work on. It came as the product of three main themes that we wanted to go with. I can't recall those themes completely at this time, but it was three wildly different themes and prompts that I was given to put this together. It was a challenge to put it together. Honestly, the major part of the process was just getting those transitions down and finding a way to meld them, which I believe at the time it did come together quite well, and I am very proud of how it turned out. A lot of it was trial and error, just throwing things at the wall to see what stuck. There was quite a few board wipes, as we'll say. I think the final rendition was number 9 out of everything I did, just to make sure that it was done right. And then after that, we had the final mixing, which took about 3 hours solid of work, just to make sure that everything wasn't too bass boosted, wasn't bleeding people's ears with mid-range. It was a fun project overall, and I wish I could do it again, because I know ways I can improve it now, but it was just a great project overall.
Hello, my name is Quill. I'm a Space Slime VTuber, also known as Plompers. I go by Plompers. as my handle. I do graphic design. I attempt to do visual arts, and I did ASMR on and off in the past, and I'm still interested in voice acting. But I am Leora's character designer and artist. Our precious little holy bean over there. So when I was making Leora, the first thing I did was I ran over to Pinterest. I ran over to Pinterest and I started looking up different clothing styles, basically. What kind of dress do I want this girly to have? What colors mostly should go along with it? Especially since her hair is like a really, really nice green. Golden accessories look nice with green. They really do look nice. But yeah, it was a lot of going on Pinterest, looking at accessories, looking at dresses, designs, different kinds of how do I put this? Like materials? Materials. I'm squinting at myself. Like that. That's the best way I can describe it. But yeah, it was a lot of the planning and design was looking at references, looking at things that I can bash together and throw on the wall to see what sticks into. So actually drawing it was much more easier. It was a lot easier to do. And yeah, I think the designing part took at least like a few days until I was relatively happy with it. And yeah, I drew her, and here we have our lovely little bean.
Hello everybody, my name is Kiryu, aka KiryuuVT, a Dragon Knight VTuber, and I am the voice actor of Kale in V-Universe. So the thing I like the most about Kale probably is his design as a whole. I enjoy his outfit, and just his expression, because it goes very well along with the lines, and I'm hoping with how I've delivered them, it comes across as how he is as a character, like truly is. Although he may sound expressionless at times, he seems to be very more caring in a different way. So, originally, I was here to do voice lines for a character called Vector. While I enjoyed his lines very much, because it kind of reminded me of characters from other video games in terms of how I was going to deliver them, as I changed to Kale, I found a different tone for it, and I really enjoy voicing his character. As blunt as he can be, I just enjoy the aura that it kind of gives off as his lines come across.
I was gonna say, I remember Gigi hates this. She hates the rat tail so much. She hates it so much. I'm gonna be honest. I actually kind of love the rat tail because I do, not because of the fact that I think like, oh, a rat tail is good looking. It's not my type, but it fits with his like scholarly look. It really does, and it creates a shock of color that goes down the body, and that works really well. And it is also classic anime. That is some classic 90s anime looks, is those low rat tail ponies.
Zenith Code was probably one of my proudest achievements when it came to doing production, because it was one of my first ever purpose-built pieces that wasn't just a what's it called, a vibe production of running around throwing wood, see what works. It was very much a brick by brick setup, because we were setting this up for a major demo theme, which is supposed to be essentially the hook, if I recall, of the entire demo, was that going to be that final fight. And that definitely gave me a solid foundation to work off of. And from there, it was just building up the wall, building up the foundation, building up the windows, the roof, the stairs to get up to the point. It was just I treated it very much like a construction project, less so than a production piece. And it turned out quite amazing in my opinion. Granted, I'm a little bit biased. So
So something that I've mentioned is, the main character is meant to show some level of smarts. He's supposed to be a professor, a detective, someone who's good at figuring things out. And so obviously that meant that we want puzzles to be a part of this game somehow. And, trying to figure out puzzles, especially within this engine, isn't the easiest thing in the world, and there was definitely some hiccups with the way that things are worded. I still think that there's some wording that we can, alter and change, but we've had to change the way that this puzzle was worded twice, for a couple of reasons. One, just getting people to, be able to get what the rules are. Some wording with where the initial grass one goes was a little confusing because people didn't seem to get that because it was on one end, they thought that it was just supposed to stay there, even though what we meant was for it to go on the other end, because we meant for it to be done, in reading order from left to right, and we thought that would be a natural conclusion, but it wasn't for a lot of people, and so we had to change the way things were worded there. Another problem was that our rules were a little bit too vague. The problem is you want things to be vague enough that the rules don't just give you the answer. That if you just follow them to the T, you're immediately gonna get it. That we want there to be some level of extra thought that's getting put into it, but if it's too, vague, then there might be a different solution than what you accounted for, and that's what ended up happening for us, which was very amusing to see. Multiple people got this other, solution for this puzzle, and it was very interesting, so we had to tinker around things with that, and we ultimately decided to go a more specific route that still made it a decent amount of challenge.
I loved this entire process. It was such a wild moment because, so there's something to be said about, is out the right choice? And I remember when I saw this the first time, I was just like, booby penance? Booby penance. And it was full boob. Okay, guys, if you've seen this design since, the booby was out and there was very little covering the rest. Okay? And I remember looking at it and I'm like, I don't think we can do titty banners. I don't think titty banners is the choice here. I think we're gonna have to bring this down several notches and be able to discuss what we're going to do here, because there was nothing. It was just the banners. There was no side material. Girls had no heft. And I hope you all know I advocated to keep the full leg out. I wanted that full leggy moment. I wanted that almost cooch slip. But the titty banners were just a step too far. And that's how you know we're tasteful gooners around here. We're gonna make sure you have the ultimate gooning experience, because unwrapping the gift is half of the joy. Yeah, you want to open the box but still have to take the foil off. Like you want that. And this was too much foil missing. I actually really love this design, by the way. I love the mixture of like armor to kind of gala night visuals. It came out so beautifully done. It was sometimes too little becomes too much very quickly. And we had to make some adjustments. I wanted my girl to have support, okay? I wanted my girl to have some support up there. And I think she came out really good for it. She's got it going on, okay? She's got it going on for sure. I just feel like this created the perfect night knight but sexy, knight but a little slutty kind of moment, while giving you enough to imagine. Which is why the material's transparent, because we didn't want to take all the skin away from you. We just needed it to be tinted.
So the combat of Fractured Universe was inspired by a few different things, and I'll go through them real quick. I think the most obvious one that a lot of RPG Maker games in general take from are games like Final Fantasy or even Dragon Quest. And that definitely had a lot of inspiration with it, especially with the ATB gauge that we have that is, near the bottom, that shows you in what order your characters are going to be going in. But yeah, definitely games like Final Fantasy were definitely a big inspiration for it. Though I wouldn't necessarily say that I have as much experience playing them myself. But another big inspiration I would say, for me personally, from the games that I played would be like Honkai Star Rail. When it comes to its combat system, mainly in the idea, just the concept of, a party of different roles, fighting in a turn order that is based on speed. And I know that's something from Final Fantasy, that's why I say it's inspired of Final Fantasy, but a lot of where, my personal experience with a combat system like that came from games like Honkai Star Rail. So, apologies for the little bit of buzzing. So yeah, that was definitely one of them. Another major one that we got was from Kingdom Hearts, and that mainly comes from the form of our passive system. So as you know, like, there are different passives that you could equip, and in the full game we're going to have things along the lines of being able to having to choose between different passives, like have multiple passives learned, but you have to pick between different slots, and that came a lot with Kingdom Hearts and its ability system. And the ability system was, something in Kingdom Hearts, you get a certain amount of EP points, and you could equip them with different abilities and stuff. And, although most of the time you can pretty much equip whatever you want, especially if you can round out certain things, there were, a lot of times where you were limited in the amount of, abilities you could equip. And so we kind of wanted to emulate that to kind of push more into build crafting. And honestly, a lot of our gameplay mechanics sort of come from that concept. We wanted to have something build craftable, a show off build crafting, and push you towards that. And that was one of them. The other one kind of being the Pokemon / Persona-esque thing of having, a limited amount of skills that are equipped to each character, but you kind of can swap them out as you will between battles, unlike Pokemon, where you can't really do that, or you have to go to a specific location or person to do that. Where in this, you can kind of switch them out whichever way that you want, but you can only bring in those 5, counting the ultimate, and sort of forcing the player to pick and choose what, which ones you're going to put in and use in a fight. And it's another way that we pushed towards build crafting. Not only just the character in general, but also like build crafting for specific situations. Like, certain skills are going to be better against bosses, or even specific bosses, or against those types of encounters, or rather than, dealing with, trying to deal with groups of enemies at once, or waves of enemies, or, just stuff like that. And I think that using that in a combat sense for build crafting really helped push things towards that. And so I'm really happy with the way that the combat system has sort of panned out. There's a lot more that I wish I could talk about with it that I can't. That we definitely want to do in the future. Some more stuff inspired by Persona. Some more stuff inspired by that in particular is going to play into it. We have all the different weapons that you now can mess around with, and there's some interesting stuff we want to do there. So yeah, I'm really glad with where the combat system has ended up, and I know it's pretty simple, capped at level 5 for now, but we wanted to be slow in our introduction of combat mechanics. It's actually kind of funny. Our general design philosophy actually reminds me a lot of Final Fantasy XIV, weirdly enough. As I was playing through Final Fantasy XIV and like its different game mechanics as it went along, it's a very long game, but I do appreciate the fact that in Final Fantasy XIV, it felt like there was like a constant stream of new game mechanics to keep things interesting and new abilities that your player could use but without overwhelming the player, like a slow, gradual increase of new things that were happening, and new things the player could do, whether it came to game modes, whether it came to abilities he had, whether it came to build crafting, whether it came to activities, all of that. So that's sort of what we want to do with our game.
Why did I become a voice actor? The easiest way to explain it would be that I was pressured into it. Pretty much from the moment I started streaming, and a little bit before it with friends, I was immediately asked if I was a voice actor. One of the first questions I ever got in one of my raids is, "Are you a voice actor?" So I would call myself typecast into being a voice actor. Like, people just hear this voice and they hear me talk on my streams, and it's immediately asking, "You sound like you're a voice actor, your vocal quality is so good." And I guess it tickled it into my ear where I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I can, even at my current size, really start pushing for this career move. The problem is when you're unknown in the industry, you don't always have the greatest of opportunities. And while I was starting to put together a demo reel, Zachy was nice enough to let me know about this game project that he was working on and that he was considering doing voice acting roles. And it seemed like a really good fit. I knew that I would be able to find something that I could work with someone I'm used to working with, and somebody who could understand the unique aspects of my situation. So I wouldn't have to worry about any of my own issues with my health or anything like that getting in the way. So it kind of just fell together to be the perfect fit. I got really lucky.
Working on Seraphine's design, I think, is the one time I genuinely questioned what I was doing to end up here. I had put so much work into so many of the details. Her eyes are different colors, and so I had to fully solidify how I was going to do the different colors of the eye, so that way it would show up. And the armor was so detailed. Like, I mean this so genuinely. I had to split up the armor into 7 different sections in order for me to just get all of the pieces in. I had the shoes, the skirt, the arms as individual. I had the breastplate, and then I had the change with skin tones, specifically in between the 2 different layers, because there were a few different sections where skin would show up. And then I had the gold highlights. And I must have spent like 3 days of time at least just doing that. And then I ran into a challenge that honestly didn't get easier the whole way through. I spent a day on its own working through and trying to figure out how I was going to make the curls. For a character that has a very wide silhouette, where the curls are the number one thing you notice, it was really important I got these right. And so I had to play with how the curls layered on each other, how many curls I would do, and I had at one point a sketch of the character on my my second monitor that was just analyzing how much hair volume there was and how many curls were on the back of her head if they were about the same size as the front. And I had eventually landed on 6 being the number that would communicate that there were enough curls. If I did 4, then they looked too big scaled to the character. And if I had done any more, then it got too busy. So after some attempts, I had created 3 curls that I really liked in varying sizes, and I had positioned them. And then I had just mirrored that same effect on the other side, which took me a little while. And when it came to the side profiles, I had to separate out 2 more of those previous 6 curls and slightly change up their angle and how they were positioned on the head, along with blending it to the original shorter layers of hair on top, which was not an easy feat. Along with that, I had to create a custom section of the hair bang-wise in order to keep with the white streak that goes across, which took some positioning. I ran through a number of different drafts on how much white would go into the section of hair and how thick it was. I eventually ended up with this design that I was really happy with. It took me quite a while, but it ended up working out pretty well and created a completely new hairstyle that wasn't originally possible with the character means and creators that we had.
Auditioning was an interesting concept because I was so sure that I was going to get a role, but I had no idea what role it would be. I know I shotgunned for a bunch of roles at the time because I wasn't sure where I would be most useful. And it was it was a kind of surprising process because I'm so new to all of this that it was almost a shot in the dark, but with a guaranteed callback, I guess I would call it. But not knowing who I was going to get meant that I was trying to think of a lot of different ways to be able to react to different things or to give different voices or ideas. And it was a little scattershot, I'll admit. It was kind of like my first try at a demo reel. It was trying to make sure that I could show a bunch of different vocal ranges to make sure that I could try out for several different roles and try to act out to my best ability. And I guess I got lucky in that Varel is probably the easiest choice for me. She's the closest to how I naturally act and sound. So I feel like I lucked out with getting Varel.
Creating Varel had a different group of pressure. I was and still am very nervous about her voice actor. Her voice actor is one of our most important members on the team, and I really wanted to make sure that I did this character justice. So, of course, I was excited to work on it, but because of that, I made sure that I broke down the outfit several times. This was a variety of different details that I had to work through. She had used part of the base that I had made custom for one of the previous characters. She had a complete outfit I had to make by hand. Nothing was assets used from other projects on that. And when I had looked at the design originally, I had noticed that there was a lot of embroidery on the bottom half of her gown. And this led to a variety of different breakdowns on fabric. Again, a rule that I had previously mentioned was that anything that was not shown on the original reference could be something I could interpret myself. So this meant that I had to separate the fabric mentally and figure out how much of this embroidered fabric was even there, as we had not seen the back of the garment. And I had created the outfit originally without the hair or the veil that overlays it, so I could fully make sure that this was consistent on all of the side profiles. So I have a design that doesn't even show up in the game, but will be important for later art referenced. That was quite a challenge. Of course, I added the hair and things onto it before, so now it's covered except for a very tiny section that shows up under the hair when she walks. But I was really happy to finally get it consistent. The hair itself wasn't that bad of a challenge. The hair was pretty straightforward. I didn't have a lot of issues with it. But when it came to the veil, this veil is massive. Like, when you look at the original art that it features, the veil is basically the height of the character. It is gorgeous, but it takes up a lot of the room. And so when you're translating such a big piece of the design at a smaller scale, I had to question how much of the pixel art this should take up. And I ended up shortening it slightly on the pixel art for readability, because if it was just constant shades of black and the darker grays, it would get completely lost. And I ended up using the bright red hair poking out at the bottom to help with that readability. By the end of what was originally the design, I was left staring at the pixel art knowing that there was something missing. There was a big area that had no detail. And you have this very detailed dress. You have the sleeves that create a very wide belled silhouette on the arms. And then the back of the veil is just completely dark. And so what I had decided to do, along with some of the themes and even like a rose on the side of her dress, I decided to create some more of that embroidery on the back of the veil. And I had turned what was originally just mostly blank into an embroidered design based off of French embroidery. And I had created a rose along with some of the swirls taken from a variety of different traditional embroidery styles. And it had not only felt like the design was a lot more complete, but continued that level of detail, especially on the back. And so when you play with her, or you see the character walking on the screen, she has this gorgeous detail on all sides that I really wanted to capture. And I'm so glad I was able to do this character justice. She had been something that was originally a challenge and wanting to keep to a certain quality that turned into one of the pieces I am the most proud of on this project.
Okay, so I was excited to see Burrell's design pretty much from the get-go, especially when I found out Knock Knock, who is one of my artists that I work with to get my turnarounds done, was doing her. It felt like a little bit like going home in a weird way. It felt very comfy because I was getting to work with somebody who I knew so well, And I got a lot more input on how she ended up looking than I expected. That's kind of my first creative consulting job that I did here, was I got to really kind of hone Varel down, giving offers of how to utilize lace, the parasol, and these differing concepts, right down to like the weapon choices. Ended up getting thrown in my lap, so I got to kind of personalize her out to fit this vision we were having of her character even more so. And I cannot thank Nock enough for how hard Nock worked and how beautiful her end design came out. I have been very lucky to work with Nock on a number of projects now, and I think she really knocked it out of the park with Varel. Oh, for sure. Knock Knock is pretty much my costume designer for anything that I make. Anytime I have to get a new ref sheet done on, and not just me, she has done things for other characters connected to me. So, yeah, I'm very much in line with what Knock Knock's work does, and she works very well with me. But she's also very extremely talented and able to do a lot of different styles. Her background in the animation industry really helps be able to push to whatever design it is you need. So I'm always happy when I get to work with Nock.
Taking a minor detour here to talk about the gacha. The gacha system was something that I really wanted to make sure we got right, because this is a completely free game, and we wanted to make a gacha because I think there are certain things about it, particularly with feeling like you're earning these characters and the excitement of getting them, being able to use them and try out new combinations is really cool. And I think that a gacha is actually pretty unique in being able to bring that to people. And I think that's something that people really underestimate about gachas, is the sort of excitement and thrill of being able to get characters and show them off and test them out, and the excitement that brings. And we wanted to do that without having to, be pay to win. And so we just removed, the pay entirely. You cannot pay for anything in this game. No microtransactions to acquire anything. And I think that actually doing that ended up being a huge benefit, because it allows people to enjoy the content that's in this game and to be able to enjoy the gacha without feeling like they need to, get their wallet out, or that they're falling behind others who have. And I really, of course, want to make it, so that you can get everything that you want within the game, every character that you would like. The access materials that you get, and the grind, and learning to spend your resources wisely on what characters you'd like, comes into getting extra things for them, signature weapons, duplicates of certain characters. Like that's where your resource management comes in. But as far as just acquiring the characters, you want that to be something that reasonably you could always do. And that also is going to play into things like making sure reruns are really active, that characters never go a long time without not being rerun for you to acquire them, eventually adding characters to standard banner, eventually adding characters to permanent banners, eventually adding characters to be acquired through certain more difficult content. That's what we want to do with this game, make the gacha feel like, and just any way that you acquire a character, feel like, it's earned, you did it, but without feeling like you're falling behind to, other people who did bust their wallet out to do that. And so we're really excited. Varel's going to be the first banner up of the character as far as event, and I'm definitely going to be pulling for her.
Yeah, so when it was first starting out, Varel was something of a stereotypical character. We were really considering a classic femme fatale, the woman you don't know if you trust, who may not have the best of motives. But after playing around with some of the lines, some ideas of different ways that she could talk, and more importantly, looking at her interactions and relationship to the main character, we decided kind of jointly, almost at the same time, that we needed to swap out how we were viewing this character. There was a real opportunity to create some heavy depth involving a character who has her own motivations, but whose motivations don't necessarily lend to her own benefit. And I think that aspect of creating a character, starting with a concept that will be appealing, and then deciding to add these levels of complexity is part of what makes Varel so special. She is infinitely complex in what she desires and how she goes about it, and what she thinks is best, really coming down to a view of a differing world than I think most of the other members of the cast. she's a mystery. She's got her own feet and her own heart in the game. And she's going to play it to the end without giving too much away to whatever end that will be.
Varel is by far the most interesting character to me to write. She's sort of my baby in that way, in the sense of like the character that I'm the most proud of, the way that she's written, and there's going to be so many interesting things to do with her. When it came to her design, just to the casting with Anna and just everything that's going on with the character, she's just so interesting, and we've been able to do so many interesting things and talk about so many interesting things with her, and she's certainly a character I'm very excited to let you all have you all see how she unfolds with things, because like I said, she's another character that you could see is very stereotypical, but we've done such interesting things with her behind the scenes, and we're going to do in future arcs, and already seeing hints of that as the story progresses throughout this first arc, and as we continue through these arcs, being able to see that more and more. And I'm just very excited to continue watching this character grow, and this being done by someone who I'm very close to, and who has a very special place in my life with Anna, being such a strong supporter of this game, from one of the first supporters of it, honestly, from pretty much day one, and I'm always very appreciative of that. And so having someone like her to support me through this process has been really special, and I don't know how I would do it without her. It's why she has that special dedication within the credits. So yeah, she just has brought so much life to this character, and been able to give so much character to her, and helped me shape her into the character that she is now. And honestly, just with so many of these characters, they've started as these simple concepts, and as Anna mentioned, like evolved into such bigger things than I could have possibly imagined. Building this world out, there's so many interesting nooks and crannies of this world that I've been able to carve out, to detail out, to world build around, and I'm honestly, not to do my own horn, like that's something that I'm just genuinely proud of myself for doing, for creating this world that I know, as I'm going to be able to show more of it to you, hopefully feels alive as it does to me in my head. So I'm very happy about that. We have so many amazing future plans, different variants of characters, being able to explore these, being able to do romance routes with characters, and people to have those decisions like actually affect the main story of whether or not they pursue them, and everything involved with that. There's just so much interesting stuff that I can't wait to do. It's honestly just a limit of time and money for how much of it I can do, so I do have to kind of pick and choose what I want to do, or more accurately, when I can actually implement and do it. Because there, as is with many things, there's a lot of things that ended up on the cutting room floor. Originally was going to have like a lot more side cutscenes that ended up having to be cut, because this game had its fair share of hardships. We've had to separate and go our separate ways with a couple of VAs that were pretty core to things, and ended up having to recast and bring new VAs in, and all that stuff. And yeah, I'm a first time indie game dev, and so this isn't like, I'm not used to all of this, and so I'm learning as I go. That's why I'm happy to have people like Anna and GG2 support me through all of this, because I'm learning all of this new stuff as I'm going along, like how to manage everything. And I hope I've done a good job. I think I've done a good job, at least, in being able to create this game development environment for so many people, because I'm very appreciative that everyone has taken their chance with me and this project, and I hope I've done them proud with what I've been able to create. As a side note of this particular cutscene, a lot of people have the line where, hey, Varel, you seem to know what you're doing with people. Do you think like you can help me out? A lot of people have attributed that to sort of the relationship that me and Anna have, and I could definitely kind of see that leaking through with that.
I mean, you write what you know in a weird way. Even unintentionally, you can end up with your life experiences coming into the character that you play. And we do have such a clear and sheer dynamic that I think it was inevitable that some of that would leak into the character role. So
Hello everyone, my name is Elysian Phantom. I am the Dragoness of Astra, Guardian to the Library of Souls. I'm play a little bit of everything under the sun. I'm a Dragon VTuber 18 plus variety streamer, but whenever I'm not playing games, I actually make art, graphic design. I also make music, both liminal core, lo-fi style music, and song covers typically. And whenever I'm not doing all that jazzeroonie, I am the voice actress for Lunara, the assassin from Fractured Universe. Hello. So when I first heard about the project, I was actually just perusing around Twitter for a bit. And then I saw something in regards to voice actors needed, but no experience is always welcomed, and it sounded like a really huge opportunity. So, you know, I always wanted to give it a shot for voice acting. So I just went in all blind, hoping for something, seeing how it went. Ironically enough, I actually originally tried to see if I auditioned for another character, and then just Lunara just happened. And I'm like, oh gosh, I hope I did her justice. And when I got the news, I legitimately started sobbing for the rest of the day. It was an experience, but I was so happy and excited and proud. So overall, like, ironically enough, her design, color palette wise, is very similar to my VTuber design, which I thought it was really funny. Like a silly coincidence, really. But one of my major, like, favorite aspects of her design is that, one, her little eyepiece. Like, I'm a sucker for, like, masks or, like, eye patches and such. And the way that her eyepiece is, like, designed, it reminded me a lot of wings and armor aspects. And then just the fact that she could rock a bodysuit. I'm just saying. She ain't showing much, maybe a little booba window here and there, but it's like she rocks that bodysuit and she looks like such a baddie through and through. And the cape also kind of reminded me a little bit of Vincent Valentine a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, like actually looking side by side the cape aspects. But one of my favorite design pieces really was her weapons, you know, for lore reasons, you know. But it's actually one of my favorite types. Like, typically you'll see like a stereotypical like dagger-esque, but I really enjoy the Yor from like Spy X Family style like needle daggers. Those are so cool, and you could be so creative with it too as a design choice.
yeah, when I got to threaten to manhandle Lennar, when you got to see the slip of the playful, flirtatious to the I am actually dangerous, watch yourself, was one of my favorite like little reveals of Varel's character. Because again, she's a very complex character. There's a lot of different ways to interact with her, and who you are matters when you're interacting with Varel. Who you are to her changes everything. But normally she's very flippant. She will maintain a very flippant atmosphere, and getting to go through that series of scenes, like that whole scene of going from this politician who she frankly does not like this lore dumper who she does not respect, and you can tell she doesn't respect, and playing with him as one might a dog toy, to an actual situation of danger and locking in, was one of the most fun things I had getting to play with her character, because I think it was the first time that we really got to see beneath the flippant surface, this carefree, lax, everything is a game kind of surface, to be reminded that beneath that is a very dangerous woman who will do what it takes. And And I think that's been the fun overall. Is there's so many layers. It means that there's a lot of secondary meanings I get to slip into her voice lines and different ways to get to play them out. That I think creates a really nice variation in the lines that I get to give over to her, which is why I'm always sticking you with like 3 to 5 different options for what you want. Yeah, well, again, that's kind of the nice thing about providing you a bunch of lines, because even I don't always know which line is the most impactful one. And I think for both of us, and you can bring this in, I think this will be a good one to bring in. For both of us, this is a real learning experience on coaching what you need and leaving what you don't. That it can be a little difficult at the time to know which variant's going to be the most impactful. And I think if there was anything I took away from the first few sessions, it was be willing to say it a bunch of different ways. Be willing to try it with a bunch of different emotions and try not to fall into a pattern. It's real easy to fall into a pattern.
I have to admit, like, getting to know the character herself, there's like some aspects of her that I kind of like truly connect with in a funny way. I'm not going to dip into it too much. But there's like some aspects of her lore and personality that I could connect with. But overall, though, as a character, I really do enjoy her. Because she's not like, at least to me, like, she is standoffish and she could be cold, but you could tell that there's a heart underneath there in some shape or form. Like, there's something there. There's something more. And it makes me so excited to learn more about her and grow with her as I continue voice acting her. And I just love voice acting her. I love, like, just playing her. I love seeing her. And when I went through the demo, I had to take a bit of a moment to really, like, collect myself because it was extremely surreal. Like, I've seen the work in progress and such like that. Like, I knew what was gonna happen, but it hits so differently when you actually like see yourself on screen in a game, you know? And it really hit to my core when really important people in my life also played the demo and hearing their reactions and such. Even though some of them did threaten me with a flip-flop, because, you know, what happens. But overall, it was a really surreal and just very precious experience for myself. And actually, thinking about it right now too, like, watching my VTuber mom. So I had, like, funny enough, if you guys stick around in my streams, I have very chaotic femme presenting figures and a non-binary presenting figure in my life that has claimed me as their daughter. And 2 of them, in fact. The first one, Minx, my tiger mama. She is chaotic, she is crazy, but she is so loving and so fiercely loving to her kids. So when I told her that I was voice acting in a game, she freaked the fluff out, was like, oh my god, I need to play this. And she did on stream, and I was kind of like lurking on stream and just listening. And I just remember I was feeling like my heart just pounding in my ears. That's on how freaking nervous I was, because little does Minx know, you know, she always tells me on how proud she is of me and X, Y, and Z and how I'm this, and that. But little does she know, I really look up to her as a role model. And the fact that, like, somebody so dear to me as is, and somebody that I looked up to in the VTubing community for so long, just, you know, is playing the game that I'm voicing in and, like, listening to her reactions and such, I couldn't stop. I couldn't help but cry so much that night. I was, like, literally sobbing, but it was so nice just hearing her just be like, I'm proud of you, kiddo. You did amazing. You killed it. And I'm like, that's my mom. And then the other maternal figure in my life, Lady Laddie. Oh my goodness, I love them so many. They're so freaking amazing and so talented as they are. When I told them that I was auditioning for this and we were yapping about it for a bit, she asked me like, "Hey, question, are you guys still open for auditions?" And I'm like, "Bet." So I sent her the link and everything, and I told her just go ahead, do it. And I remember she was being mean to herself, saying that her a voice reel was terrible, X, Y, and Z. And I'm just kind of staring at her like, lady, mother, my primordial mother of chaos, trust in thyself because I trust in you. And when she sent in her audition and was going through the process, and she's like, "Oh my God, Elysian," that is like, "Daughter, I have news." And when she told me, I freaked the fluff out, and I was like so hecking proud. We were both screaming in BC. But I was so hecking proud of her because she is such a brilliant talent. Like from music production and so on and so forth, like from doing song covers. I've seen some of her work that she's done VA for, like doing tiny little things like that. And just seeing the fact that she landed the role and doing the damn thing, it's just so hecking amazing. And on top of that too, the fact that they are a non-binary being, you don't really see a lot of non-binary beings coming in and like just snagging really big roles too, when you really think about it, for the character that she has, and just kind of like going in, swooping in, and doing the damn thing. And it's just so amazing and so cool, and I'm so hecking proud of her and all the work that they put into their craft every day. And I look up to them as a fellow like V singer and VA as well. Like I remember sitting down with them and getting like a couple of pointers on how to better my audio setup, things like that. And there's such a well of knowledge as well. So just I'm so proud. Like, lady, if you're listening to this, primordial mother of chaos, I'm so fucking proud of you, and I love you so dearly, and I can't wait for us to do more stuff together like this. And I love you. I love you. I love my moms. My moms are awesome and amazing, and I love them so dearly.
I'm extremely happy and excited to have my voice be given to Kale, and obviously I'm hoping that I'm able to do him justice through it. Being a voice actor like this has been one of the many things I've wanted to do in life, and I just hope that this is the beginning of voice acting roles for me as a whole, and I will continue to voice Kale as long as I can.
Oh my gosh. When the news was brought up to me, I was like, you're telling me I could have a little pocket assassin? I could have my little pocket assassin? And then there's like more stuff that's gonna be coming up. I was freaking out. Like, honestly, entering the project, I was just already excited over just being able to voice act, not let alone just be part of a freaking project as is. But the fact that we're getting like little merch stuff for our characters, like when I heard that Lunara just was like, oh, she's gonna get a sticker, she's gonna get this as well, and I'm like, huh? I was so happy. I was over the moon, and immediately I was like, oh, I'm buying myself a pack of stickers, peas and carrots. I want it right meow like yesterday. I'm gonna like stick those stickers like all over the place in my office, I swear to gods. But I was so extremely proud and just so happy. It's still very surreal when I talk about it, but it's amazing.
It's so fun. It's always like an additional thing for me when I get to hear characters have like actual voicing to them. I don't know, it just brings a different level of immersion, at least to me. And legitimately, for the longest time, I know that ever since I was like in my teenage years, I've always loved stuff like visual novels because I loved looking at the character sprites. And I've always told myself as a little kid, I want to do that when I grow up. I want to be able to make my own sprites or CGs or anything like that. Be a part of a game. So yeah, thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Ooh, how I feel about something of mine being in a video game. That's surreal. Like, any work that I do, like, whenever I see it being used, let it be, like, a character design, or, like, a voice, like, me voicing something, or, like, whenever I do graphic design, for example, perfect example, when I do, overlays and stuff for people, and I see them actually using it on their stream, there's, like, this little part of me that just screams in unbridled joy. And that's pretty much how I felt when you came to me for Leora. I was like, I don't know if I might caught that. It was a very high pitched.
I find it very touching how many people have found themselves really intrigued by Varel and wanting to know more about her. And it feels nice, if nerve-wracking, to know that my performance has really helped sell that. It's a lot of pressure, but in a good way. I want to make sure that I keep doing her justice going forward and making sure that people continue to ask themselves questions about this mysterious woman who is helping guide you on your way. And I guess overall, I'm just really happy I got the opportunity. This is the first step in what I hope will be a long and very varied career. And I'm hoping for a lot of opportunities in the future, of course, but I'm happy I got to start here amongst friends and got to lend my voice and my talents to such an amazing character.
Hey, this is something I'm just adding in at the last second, as I am the night before this is supposed to go live, and I just finished editing all of this. I'm feeling a little under the weather right now, and so yeah, I'm gonna keep this brief, but thank you to everyone. Like, being able to hear everyone speak more highly than I deserve of me, and thanking me for being a part of this project. It really means a lot, because there have been times in which I doubted whether what I was doing was worth it, and you all have showed me that it is. Just you all loving and being a part of this project. So to everyone that was involved in this demo and was able to be a part of this recording, and everyone who's been a part of this demo, and everyone who will be a part of this game, thank you for putting your trust in me. Each and every one of you are the people that make this worth it. So I'm gonna keep going. I love you all so much, and you all mean the world to me. See y'all later.